Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Stephen Leonard of the Leonard Group. Stephen, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Gresham. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And what I want to do is just read a little bit more about Stephen so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And for nearly a decade as president and CEO of Leonard Group, Stephen has seen the importance of creating meaningful and quality product. Established in 2010, the Leonard Group has grown from a home-based business into a multi-million, multi-brand company, including lines for men and women, faith-based jewelry, a pet line, and American-based manufacturing. The rapid growth, top-tier partners, growing infrastructure, and a message of hope has poised Leonard Group to see exponential growth in the coming years. Having launched the Stephen David Leonard brand in late 2017, Stephen's vision is to help struggling people find their purpose and understand their unique identity, experience, skills, and talents so they can live the life they were created to live. Stephen, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I am.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first thing I want to do is to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
Yeah. So my wife and I started the first business in 2002 when our first son was born with special needs. My wife started making jewelry, and over time we realized in relocating to the area we live now that we needed to have a web presence. And so I, along with a friend of ours who was actually in the college group that I was pastor of at the time, built our first website. And we began sort of developing our online presence that way. And I was kind of doing this in my spare time at that time, as I was a full-time pastor then. Mm-hmm. And as the business continued to grow through social media and some different things, we realized we needed somebody to step in and do what I was doing full-time. Either I needed to do it myself, or we needed to hire somebody. And we decided, you know what, it's time to take the leap and kind of go all in with both of us, both my wife and I, full-time. And so I jumped in and started leading the company full-time. And we continue to develop the company. It's always been kind of a social media based company based on, just depending on what is kind of happening at the time, and continue to kind of grow from there. So my wife and I have always, I think with the birth of our son, we've always been very connected to just the reality that there's a lot of hard things in life. That's a big part of life. I think, anybody can attest to that, whether it's dealing with illnesses or job challenges or, identity issues or, lots of things, both internal and external. And so my wife and I, as we've kind of, struggled through with the issues with our son, and as we've kind of put some of that into the product and the messaging that we put into the business, we've always tried to put something positive, kind of a message of hope out into the world, through the business. And so that's been, I think, kind of the inspiration guiding everything all the way along.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's why, I love everything you've been able to build and are building as well, just because a lot of times, you're whatever's around you becomes your reality a lot of times. So if you don't know mm-hmm. that somebody has, gone through a difficult time and been able to go through it, no matter what it can be, like, some of the things you spoke about, you never know that getting through it is something that's possible. But the fact that you've been able to, show that, and then you're showing that in everything that you're creating as well, is definitely something that's remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to drill down a little bit deeper and hear a little bit more about, the brand and everything you're building. Could you tell us a little bit more on how you're serving the clients you're working with?
Yeah, for sure. So we do two things. Like I said, you'd mentioned we've got lines for men and women. We've got a Christian jewelry line, faith-based jewelry line, pet line. Our kind of key line is called Lisa Leonard Designs, and we do women's jewelry through that line, and then started the Stephen David Leonard line, like you mentioned, in late 2017, and we were able to purchase the other two lines. The thing that we do is we try to kind of embody in our jewelry a couple of things. One thing that's very important to us is meaning. you can buy a lot of jewelry out there, you can buy a lot of stuff, but there's so much kind of in the marketplace that's just another thing. And we have always seen that, when you're wearing something on your hand or around your neck or on your wrist, it's nice to have pretty things, and that's legitimate, but we've always worked to put meaning into those things. And so we do a lot of personalization, and people put their kids' names or significant dates or, inspiring messages, so that as they're going through their day, they're kind of remembering those things that are important to them. And then the other thing is just in the way we make the jewelry, like I said earlier, we've always been about that sort of message of hope, and kind of realizing that comes in the middle of a world that there's a lot of hard things, that there's a lot of difficulty. And so kind of the look, the aesthetic of our product has always kind of got a combination of a little bit of I don't want to say rough edge, but a more sort of organic kind of look to it, where it's not perfect, but always beautiful. And so just even in that look, it's kind of a reminder that, life isn't perfect, but it can be beautiful. So those are a couple of big things. And then we tell that story through the writing that we do on our blogs and social media, and kind of continue that same message.
Nice. I love that. And I'm not sure if that, is what you would call like your secret sauce. But the thing that I love, a lot about it is that a lot of times people, especially in this day and age where, you have everything at your fingertips, you can, follow anybody on social media, or you can research anything. You can really make purchases based off of things that you're truly passionate about, and you can give meaning to your purchases by doing that. And I love the fact that, again, your brand kind of represents that, but then by people, supporting your brand, they're supporting those ideals as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Would you consider that to be like your secret sauce, or would you consider it to be something else?
Well, I think it relates to our secret sauce. I
Okay.
think our secret sauce really is that it's real.
Mm.
And by that, I mean, I can think of other companies, that talk about meaning, and sometimes, you read a company's story, and it kind of rings like a corporate story trying to sound meaningful, right?
Right, right.
And for us, my wife and I never really intended to go into business in the first place, especially not to the level that we're at now. We've kind of followed our noses as things have developed, and so because of that, it's always been important to us to really root everything we do in our story, and to root everything we do in that story of hope. And so we work very hard to keep things grounded in reality. And we've come up with cool marketing slogans at times, or things like that that sound really nice, and then we stop and think about it and ask, like, okay, what does this actually mean? That what are we really, sounds great, but what are we really trying to say? And if we can't root it back into reality, and into actually trying to put a good message out into the world, and a positive message that's rooted in something real, we'll ditch it and come back and find something real. And so I think that's our secret sauce, is that that kind of integrity between who we are and what we're putting out into the world. And my experience in business is that's pretty rare. I think a lot of companies, a lot of folks in business, and not that there's anything necessarily wrong with this, but there's a lot of people that, what their company does and what they do, it's just another product out into the world. And sometimes some of those products meet great needs, and, we're thankful that we have them. And, but I think that's something that's unique to us, is that integrity between, the real story and what we do.
Yeah, and I would definitely use the word authenticity as well too, just because a lot of times, like you said, a lot of people are trying to, take courses and do things and read books or whatever to be authentic, but there's
Right.
nothing that you can do better than being authentic,
Right.
for lack of a better
I
phrase.
need to read a book to find out how to come across as authentic.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's what's happening a lot of times now, when in reality, you don't have to read a book. You just have to kind of be yourself and be true to your story, be true to everything that you stand for. And a lot of times, we sometimes forget that and get caught in that. So I'm glad you're definitely, reminding us of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I really think that in the marketplace, the more true to ourselves we are, the more room there is for everybody.
Mhm.
We're unique people. And, even if it's just a slight, twist or tweak on an idea that you bring uniquely because you're you, I think there's room in the market for that. And so, yeah, I think there's truth to what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say no one can run your race like you can. So, they can try to, they can, prepare and do all those things, but you are you and nobody can beat you at that race. So that definitely is very true. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
Yeah. I think a few things come to my mind, but I think something I'm kind of proud of is I am a reader. I again, being a business leader is not something I started off, to do. And so I feel like I'm playing catch up a lot and just have a lot to learn always. So anyway, I read a lot. And one of the things that I've come across is that a kind of big issue for any company is the actual like execution of plans. It's easy to do a lot of planning. It's easy to have great ideas. It's, all those things, entrepreneurs and CEOs tend to be pretty good at that stuff, but execution is where things fall apart. I'm no different. Execution is where I fall apart sometimes as well. And so I've created kind of a system that we use with our leadership team where it's kind of a combination of some different things. 4 Disciplines of Execution is a book, 12 weeks, 12-week goals, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Some getting things done and some other things here and there that I don't even remember where they came from, and kind of put them together into a spreadsheet that we use where we really outline our quarterly goals and, nail down exactly what our priorities are. And then pretty slavishly week by week, we monitor what we do and check in with each other and make sure that we're moving the ball forward. And it feels like a hack because every time we do the process, we start off with these big ideas and we all feel like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? I have no idea. It's all so abstract. And then I kind of tease my team because every time we get through, we usually do a 2 or 3 day process, and inevitably by the end of the process, they're saying, you know what? I think this one's a really practical plan, and I think we're going to really get some traction with it. And we kind of have that cycle over and over again, and it's great because we get to look back on those plans and we see that we accomplish a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of ideas out there, but what really counts is like the actual execution, as you said. And I think because there's so many different factors that are happening, it's hard to kind of determine what will be the best idea that actually becomes, the best product or the best, whatever book, whatever that might be. But to have kind of like a process that it sounds like you guys have where you're putting it through all these different, I don't know if they're tests or just metrics to make sure that it is exactly what you want it to be, like in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a format to help us think, really. It's funny. I think thinking is the most powerful thing we can do.
Yeah.
And it's the hardest thing, because it's hard work.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I remember Steve Jobs had a quote that said, "You have to work really, really hard to get simple." So when you have these grand visions and these grand thoughts, to break it down so that it's understandable to anybody, but also understandable as far as execution, it actually takes a lot more work than it would be to create something complex.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely.
Nice. And now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget, and this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice. Or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
Yeah, I think it goes to some of the things that we've discussed. I think really, to understand who you are and pursue, pursue your vision out of who you are. Don't try to be somebody else. I know it sounds simple, and I'm not the first person by a long shot to say that, but I think it's really easy to get distracted by either trying to be somebody else, trying to copy another company, seeing what somebody else is doing and thinking, oh, I can, I can just, copy that and do it or whatever. And I think we can be inspired by, by things that we see out there. We're all inspired, and that's true. But I think, I really think that one of the most powerful things that we can do is be ourselves. We can be who we were each created to be. Like I like your saying that you said about, nobody can run your race. Like,
Mhm.
And so again, it's simple, but I think there's a lot of things that pull any of us toward trying to be somebody else or trying to measure ourselves. You can get really discouraged measuring yourself against somebody who's doing what you're doing, but 10 years down the line, and you think, oh, I haven't reached that yet. And it's like, well, they've been at it a long time,
Yeah.
and, we don't tend to measure ourselves against what somebody's doing, what they were doing the same, year one or the same time that you're doing it. And so, and with that, I think there's just a lot of hard work. And so, so anyway, I would say, be pretty dogged about being who you are and staying true to your vision, not getting distracted by others.
Yeah. And again, I love that just because, and I'm glad you brought up, a lot of those different things, because a lot of times whether you're reading a book or taking a course or whatever, or you see something on social media, you automatically, I guess without even knowing, kind of measure yourself against that person or that business or whatever, and understanding like there are those things that are competing for your attention, I guess you can say, to do that, but to really work at being yourself and being authentic and understanding even who that is, because a lot of times things will tell you what you should be or measure you according to that. And it's important for you to kind of stay true, understand that, and then pretty much fight for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So true.
Nice. And now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Stephen, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah. My first real answer is I have no idea. I'm figuring it out day by day.
That's why I'm asking the question. I don't know either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I definitely used to think of it differently than I do now. I think being a CEO, I guess I'll say it this way. The way I kind of joke with our team, I think that a huge part of my job is being the chief belief officer. We spend a lot of times in an organization solving problems, and it seems like as soon as you solve one, two more take its place. And, and somebody in the organization has got to believe in an extraordinary way in the mission, in the vision, in what you're trying to accomplish, and to keep everybody looking at that. And so I think a huge part of my approach to being a CEO is being that chief belief officer and reminding us of what we can do. And, in our company over, 10 plus years, we've experienced really good times and we've experienced really difficult times. And each of those has its challenges. I think sometimes you think, with success, it'll be so much easier. Sometimes those are some of the hardest times, but again, holding to the vision and the vision, the mission, and kind of keeping everybody looking forward no matter what's going on. I think it's a very orienting thing, so that you're looking at the horizon and not just kind of the up and down of what's happening. So that's probably my big thing is kind of leading in the belief in what we're doing.
Yeah, and I love that. That's a great definition for someone that didn't know. But I think that's so true, just because, you have to have that belief, and you have to hold or keep everybody aware of that belief and why you're doing what you're doing. Because a lot of times, like you said, the up and down of the roller coaster can sometimes, give you the lows. You can only see the lows, or the highs, you can only see the highs, and understanding both of those are part of the process is important. So I love that definition, and I might borrow that a few times. So I appreciate that. And Stephen, I truly appreciate your time. What I wanted to do was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know, and then how best to get a hold of you.
Yeah. No, beyond that, we're again, Gresham, I'm just thankful to be here on the podcast with you today, and I would just say, if you want to learn more about us and you want to kind of follow our journey, you can go to LisaLeonard.com. And StephenDavidLeonard.com, and there's our product. You have access to our blogs. All of our social media links are there, and people can come and check us out and see what we're all about. So.
Awesome. And we'll have those links in the show notes as well, just so that everybody can follow up with you and see all the awesome things that you're doing and support the cause, of course. And I appreciate you again, Stephen, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
All right. Thanks a lot. You too, Gretchen.